Hello, once again. Welcome to the Powerhouse Woman Show. I am your host, Monica Pierre. We gather on a weekly basis on a Thursday to talk to some incredible powerhouse women about their stories, their journeys, their life lessons, and wisdom that they would love to share with you as well. So it's always amazing to have this opportunity to profile some of the women. And the one that I'm going to profile today, I tell you, I have known for many, many years. I've interviewed many, many times, and I'm delighted to bring her back to talk about when you go through something and you survive that something, what makes you decide to use that to advocate for others? We're joined by the one and only, for those of you in the New Orleans area and some other parts of the country, Essence Harris Banks, founder and CEO of Heart in Hands. Welcome to you again.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity, as usual.
Well, I was trying to think, when was the first time? You know, when you know people for a long, long time and you can't even remember the first time you met them? I'm at that stage. I know it had to be an interview, but I don't know how you got on my radar. And
Years.
I had so much admiration ever since. So thank you for being with us.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know your story, it is a powerhouse story. So you are 30, right? 30-ish, and it's the prime of your life. You're energetic, you work out, you do all these amazing things, but you start to not feel well and have the shortness of breath. And many people who are going to be watching can identify with this. You try to figure out what's going on, and you're told, like, nah, it's not that much of a big deal. Take the story from there as to what happened to you at such an early age.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, 30 years old at the prime of my life, did not suspect heart disease. I had heart palpitations, shortness of breath, and thought something's just not right. But as you know, women, we put it off. We prioritize everyone else. At the time I had a young son who was 4, and I thought maybe I did too much. Maybe I didn't eat the right breakfast. So I put it off. But there was one particular day where I was carrying him inside and he was extremely heavy, brought him in, and I was winded, and I thought, wow, I need to see a doctor. So I went to my physician. He said, you probably are having panic attacks, because he ran every test, did not have cholesterol, blood pressure. Nothing was wrong with my sugar levels. I don't smoke. As you mentioned, I was a personal fitness trainer at the time. And so I just thought, wow, there's something more to this story. And I just kept being persistent with the doctor, saying, no, it's more. He said, take 3 days off from work and take Xanax. And at 30, I'm like, what is Xanax?
Right, right. The
And
only thing
so
you didn't say was call me in the morning, right? That was the only thing the physician did not say. So at this time, you're going, I can either accept what I'm being told or I can do something about it. So at what point did you say, I'm going to keep digging until I figure out the source of what I'm experiencing?
yeah, so at that day at the doctor's office, I said, well, I need to see a cardiologist. He referred me to several cardiologists, who I finally found one who listened, ran several more tests, and realized that I had severe blockage, 98 and 95% blockage in 2 arteries. So you can imagine how I'm feeling at this time, like, oh my goodness, I was right. I knew something just was not right. So I went in to have an emergency angiogram. So they went in to check the blockages, and lo and behold, they found them, and they went in to do an angioplasty at that point. But you can only imagine at 30, I'm thinking, wow, heart disease. And when the doctors came out when I was in recovery, he told my mother she now has heart disease. She has to now live differently and do some different things. And I thought, well, I thought I was fixed. I thought you fixed me. And he says, no, it's a lifelong journey. And at that moment is when I decided it was going to be a success story, because I said, how could a 30-year-old that's fit, doesn't smoke, doesn't have the typical risk factors for heart disease, cardiovascular disease, get heart disease? There's several factors, as I look back now, it's 21 years later, as a heart disease survivor, I'm celebrating and thriving. But I thought then I need to share this with as many women as possible. And that's when I met you those years ago on the radio show.
And you were so atypical, right? Again, fitness trainer, active. doing all the things as they say. So you didn't fit the profile. But what was it also in within you to keep wanting and the advocating for yourself that you want to bring in a cardiologist? Because again, we're told they know best. They went to school. You
That's
know, women aren't listened to. It's stress. It's everything but. We don't really know what it is, but take whatever pills he told you to take, and then come back and let's see what happens. Well, so what was? Were you always a fighter in some way?
I think so.
Mhm.
I think at a very early age, I just never really took no for an answer. I wanted to dig and find out the root cause because I thought something more has to be wrong. Like there's no way out of the blue this is going to happen to me and I'm not going to find out really what's going on. So I was extremely persistent. That cardiologist ran several tests though until he did get to the stress test. So he did the blood work again. He found nothing. I had to carry a Holter monitor around for about a week, which is that EKG they connect to you and it just tracks your daily activity. I had that. It came back normal. Everything came back normal. And then he finally said, you know what, Essence, if you were 10 or 15 years older, I would have immediately done the stress test. So he said, you know what, I'm going to do it and just, check everything. And that's when he found out. He's like, you were right. There is something wrong. He could see from the results. And that's when we scheduled the procedures. But I just knew it had to be something else. And I don't think I was going to stop until we got to the bottom of it. And it was really me and myself, right? Me, myself, and I sitting there thinking about what could I do to get to the bottom of this. I didn't tell my family, because women, we wear so many hats. We take care of everybody. So I didn't want to worry the rest of the family because maybe it was nothing. Maybe they were right. Maybe that first primary care doctor was correct. Maybe it was stress. Maybe I just needed to take 3 days off from work. But I really wanted to X everything out before we came to that conclusion so fast.
And to hear the words essence, you were right.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
when he said it, it was like a part of me was excited, but then I started crying. I didn't want to be right, but I did want to be right. Does that make sense?
mhm,
I was like,
absolutely. So
yeah.
you advocated for yourself, and now you're taking what you have survived and thrived through, and you decided to start a nonprofit. The name, of course, is very interesting. So how did you also decide the time was right to also advocate for others?
Yeah, so for the first 10 years of my journey as a heart disease survivor, I've partnered with American Heart Association, Women Heart, several organizations that focus on women and cardiovascular disease, as it is the number one killer of women. And so at my 10-year anniversary mark, I was thinking, how can I get ahead of heart disease? So my family and I are in my living room, my husband, my kids, my sister, and we're thinking, we need to get to the girls. If we get to the girls age 10 through 18, we can prevent heart disease, which we discovered 80% of heart disease is preventable. So we thought if we can get to them, we can help stop this number one killer of women. So that's why it's called Heart in Hands. We want you to take your own heart in your hands, right? It's all about what we do to our bodies, especially our heart now, that will impact us in the long run. So that age group with Heart in Hands is key. It's very important that we segment that market of girls so that we can change the trajectory of their life and then create generational health.
Right. And again, we're going to talk about you not only being in the New Orleans area, you are impacting, I forget the number off the top of my head, so many young girls in several states. What's that total to date?
Yeah, so right now we're at about 6,500 girls and counting, and we're in 6 states, so 6 cities, I'll say. We're in New Orleans, Nashville, we're in Houston, Atlanta. We just launched last year in Austin, Texas. They are celebrating their 1 year anniversary this month. We're really excited about the work that they're doing. And then earlier this year, we launched in Dallas. And so we are spreading our wings and we want to reach as many girls in as many cities and states as we can. So growing by the day.
Oh, and congratulations on that. And as I told you before we started, it's also a situation where you've gone from surviving, thriving, service to now legacy. What do you think would be the legacy of what you experienced, how you learned to advocate and demanded some answers, and you're advocating for others, and now you are just all over the place.
I think, when you mention legacy, it's about these girls taking the information home as we empower them, we educate them, and they're spreading the word in their communities. They've then become ambassadors. So, we launched the ABCs About the Heart coloring book, and in there's a Heart and Hands pledge. There's a certificate where they can actually own being a part of Heart and Hands wherever they are in the country when they purchase this book. And so the legacy would be for all of these girls that are touched by Heart and Hands, that hear us and have worked with us, spread the message in their families and create this, heart healthy environment. And that's really the goal, and the mission is to stop the number one killer of women through our girls, who we know are the bosses of their families, right? If the little girl comes and says, Mom, we have to walk 20 minutes a day, Miss Essence said we have to get out, we have to get fit. She gave us these recipes, or we have fruit and veggie parties, right? We introduce them to fruit and veggies that maybe they were not exposed to before. And so we want that to create generational health in their families. And we know, the statistics, 1 in 3 women will die every year from heart disease, which is staggering, right? And so we have to decrease that. And we definitely need to focus on our communities of color as well, because that is one of our number one threats when we look at heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and all the risk factors, right? All the things. And, I tell people, I'm from New Orleans, grew up in the lower 9th Ward of New Orleans. When we ate, you eat what your grandmother cooked, right? But now we're starting to make healthier choices. We can scale back on sodium. We can add more fruit, add more veggies. There are simple things that we can do. And we're hoping to change families, change hearts, every day.
Absolutely. And doing that, you have a gala coming up, 11 years old with this organization, and I want to talk a little bit about what it takes to run a nonprofit, but tell us about the gala that's coming up.
Yeah, so we are excited to host our gala on Saturday, September 27th. It's at the beautiful Ritz-Carlton New Orleans Hotel. It's from 6 to 10 p.m. We will have live entertainment featuring our very own local Tanya Boyd Cannon. We have a DJ, silent auction, live auction. We have a new auctioneer this year, none other than McCoy Banks himself. So we're really excited about that.
For those who don't know, we're giggling because not only, come on, there's a connection. Give him his props.
Yes, he's the husband.
He's
and supporter and advocate, of all things, Heart and Hands. So we're really excited for the partners. Our sponsors are coming in very strong this year, from I Am Tucker with ILSI Engineering, Medtronic, Aetna, a host of others, Volunteers of America. The list goes on. So this year we are really going to have some fun featuring our junior board members who have made an impact with Heart and Hands. So we listen to them. Their voices matter. And so, it's all about what they want, what their peers want. And so at the gala, you'll see some of the great work that they're doing in their schools, in the Orleans Parish and St. Charles Parish. So we're just excited to feature, their work at this year's gala, as well as our scholarship fund. So all proceeds go back to the scholarship fund, as well as our Love Your Heart Wellness program. For more information, you can visit our website at www.heartandhands.org, as well as on all social media platforms.
Right. And the focus and the dedication, you do a lot of things. What's it like really growing a nonprofit? You have to start somewhere, and the way you started is not where you are these years later. The gala is great, but you had to start. And sometimes we decide that it has to be huge from out of the gate, and then we don't do anything. So what was that process like? And are you surprised that you are in so many cities now?
Oh, yes. I started in the living room. I created my own logo. I completed my own filings. I did the research. I talked to attorneys. I talked to other nonprofit experts at the time. It was a very small organization, very grassroots. We hosted 2 or 3 events the first year. We hosted, we got out to health fairs and tried to create that brand visibility. And so each year we just got bigger and bigger. Midway through, around COVID, Still doing a lot of speaking engagements. Our first chapter in Nashville, someone saw me speak and they wanted to host the chapter. And so that's kind of how it goes. People see me and they say, we want it in our city. I just had a partnership with IUM International, which is International United Miss, and they're like global. And so we have some ambassadors in Wales and in London, and that's super exciting. And now these young ladies are asking to start Heart and Hands chapters, in their countries. And so I'm just overjoyed because just that idea I had to educate girls in New Orleans, right, has grown. And, every day I just watch it. Sometimes I have to sit back and just enjoy the moment because I remember when, it was me hitting the pavement, me calling everyone, looking for sponsors. So, as a nonprofit leader, you do everything. You do the marketing in partnership with the board of directors, of course, but, you're hitting the ground. You're out there doing all of the work, all the things,
All of the things. And I'm so glad you shared that, whether you have a nonprofit or a business or a side hustle that is now becoming the main thing. I hope you are encouraged as you watch the show live or watch it later. It is what it is. It takes work. It takes you thinking, well, this is not happening here. And then it takes someone saying, can you come? Can you do this? Can you speak for our organization? Can you do this? And you have a contract. So if you're on the verge right now of saying this is too long and this is too hard, I would like to have you join me, Essence, and encourage them to keep going, because no one knows exactly when it's going to turn, when it's going to hit, when you're going to get to the next stage or the next level.
That's right. You have to keep trugging along. There were days when I said, am I doing the right thing? I was putting money out of my own pocket. My family was, donating, and we were getting in-kind donations, like whatever I could get. And there were days when I said, I just can't do it. It's too much. It's too hard. But I thought, no, the impact that I'm making is even greater than the work that I'm putting in. So whatever the business is, whatever the challenge is, like we can get through it. Right. There's so many experts out there now. There's so many people that have done it before us that we should tap into. That institutional knowledge really helped me tremendously. Going to those people who knew the best practices and say, Essence, don't do this, or make sure your tax filings are correct. Make sure you file all of your paperwork, like make sure the foundations are set, and then you just grow from there. I thought in the beginning I was just going to like skyrocket and, somebody's going to see me and like take it and run. It didn't work like that. You have to get out, hit the pavement, and get the name of the organization or the business out there. So, but it's rewarding. It really is very rewarding when I see the smiles on these girls' faces and their families, and they say, Essence, thank you. You have helped us change, our life and the way that we see our heart. And the first question I ask everybody is, what did you do for your heart today? And sometimes people just give me a blank stare, like I never thought about it, because we don't think about the heart until it's too late, until something's wrong. We're going to get everything else checked out, but that heart might come in last, but it has to be first. Everything starts with the heart. It starts with the heart.